A computer science graduate from the class of 2023 submitted 5,762 job applications, not to one company, not in one city. 5,762 applications, and not a single full-time offer came back. You could dismiss that as an outlier, a bad candidate, a rough patch of luck. Except it isn't an outlier. It's a pattern, and the data behind it is starting to look less like a market correction and more like a verdict. The entry-level job is disappearing. Not shrinking, not evolving into something adjacent, disappearing. Methodically, sector by sector, in a way that can now be measured, sourced, and mapped. And at the center of it is a technology that companies spent 3 years promising would only ever augment human work, never replace it. They were wrong. Or they were lying. The evidence is accumulating either way. Since January 2023, entry-level job postings in the United States have fallen 35%, according to Revelio Labs, a company that tracks over 100 million employment profiles and feeds data to Bloomberg, the Federal Reserve, and institutional investors. That number is cited so often now it risks losing its weight. So sit with what it actually means. More than 1 in 3 entry-level openings that existed 2 years ago simply no longer exist. Not filled, not frozen, gone. The tech sector absorbed the sharpest blow. Entry-level hiring at the 15 largest tech firms dropped 25% from 2023 to 2024 alone, according to venture capital firm SignalFire. Zoom out further and the number is more alarming. Overall programmer employment in the United States fell 27.5% between 2023 and 2025, according to IEEE Spectrum. One field that entire generations of first-generation college students were told was recession-proof, down more than a quarter in under 2 years. The decline accelerated specifically as generative AI tools came online. That timing is not a coincidence. What nobody saw coming, what the optimists in corner offices genuinely failed to predict, was which jobs AI would hit first. The assumption in 2022 was that call centers would take the initial blow. Low skill, high volume, script dependent. Easy to automate, easy to justify. But that's not where the damage landed hardest. The biggest impact by far, said Hugo Milan of Kelly Services, would be on the programmers. The structured, solitary, logic-driven nature of code turned out to be exactly what large language models were built to replicate. Junior developers were performing work that AI could now approximate at a fraction of the cost and none of the overhead. Companies noticed. Stanford University researchers watched it unfold in real time. Employment for software developers between the ages of 22 and 25 dropped nearly 20% from its late 2022 peak by July 2025. In roles with heavy AI exposure, software, customer service, accounting, financial analysis, the same age cohort saw a 6% employment decline, while workers aged 35 to 49 gained 9%. The career ladder wasn't just getting harder to climb, the bottom rung was being removed entirely, and the people standing on it were falling. The underemployment rate for college graduates between 2022 and 2027 hit 43% by December 2025, the highest since the pandemic disrupted hiring in 2020. That figure means that nearly half of recent graduates with 4-year degrees are either working jobs that don't require those degrees or are unable to find enough hours. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York puts direct unemployment for recent graduates at 4.8%. These aren't abstractions. These are people who followed every instruction the system handed down, study hard, pick a practical major, build the portfolio, and arrived at the starting line to find the starting line had moved. Ravio's 2024 to 2025 hiring analysis makes the mechanism visible. Entry-level positions saw a 73.4% average decline in hiring rates. The same period produced only a 7.4% decline across all job levels. This is not a broad market slowdown applying equal pressure at every rung. It is targeted, concentrated, and surgical. The bottom is being hollowed out, while the structure above it lays largely intact. The more revealing story isn't just the jobs disappeared. It's what happened to the work. At major tech firms, tasks that junior engineers used to own, writing and testing code, identifying bugs, contributing to development sprints, handling documentation, didn't vanish when the headcount did. They got pushed upward. Senior engineers absorbed them under the operating assumption that AI tools would compensate for the missing heads. And in some narrow technical respects, the tools did help. Velocity improved, code shipped faster, but AI has no grasp of stakeholder management, product intuition, or the ambiguity that lives between a ticket and its actual business objective. That part still requires humans, and now there are fewer of them doing more. Seniors are burning out, said one mid-level software engineer at a large tech firm, and when they leave, there's no rush to replace them because AI will do it. He's now looking for an exit. The company that bet on AI to solve its junior talent gap is now bleeding the senior talent it retained. The short-term efficiency calculation is producing a long-term structural problem, and it will not announce itself until a product fails, a system breaks, and there is no one with institutional knowledge left to fix it. Fast Company documented this dynamic in February 2026, and the engineers they spoke to described a workplace where the assumption of AI competence had become a reason to never rebuild the human bench. This is the part the press releases don't include. The evidence isn't confined to America. A Swiss analysis of 7.3 million job advertisements found that entry-level postings in 2025 ran 32% below the 2019-2022 average. Marketing, administration, finance, and IT showed the sharpest cuts. Senior postings in AI-exposed fields rose 26% in the same period. Junior openings in those same fields fell an additional 16%. The pattern is identical to the US data. AI is compressing the bottom of organizational hierarchies globally, concentrating demand at the top and leaving new graduates caught in the middle. Overqualified for what's available, underexperienced for what isn't. Bloomberg's analysis found that AI could already handle more than 50% of the tasks performed by entry-level market research analysts, and 67% of tasks performed by junior sales representatives. Contrast that with a 9 and 12% automation exposure for their managerial counterparts, and the picture clarifies. This is not technology disrupting work equally across the board. It is targeting the work that entry-level employees actually do, the routine, the repetitive, the task-based, while leaving senior judgment work largely intact. The people with the most experience are safest. The people with the least have nowhere to build it. There is a counter-argument, and it deserves to be named rather than ignored. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report projects 170 million new roles will be created this decade. AI, by some estimates, will generate 97 million new positions globally by 2027. Cognizant hired 25,000 fresh graduates in 2025. Proponents of the augmentation thesis argue that the nature of entry-level work is simply being redefined, not erased, that new graduates will spend less time on rote execution and more time on monitoring AI outputs, surfacing insights, catching errors that machines cannot recognize as errors. The optimism is not entirely wrong, but it is dangerously premature. The new roles the WEF projects are not yet well defined. They are not widely posted. They do not have clear hiring pipelines or established training programs. What exists right now, today, for the class of 2026, is a 35% drop in postings, a 73% collapse in P1 hiring rates, and a senior-level cohort doing the work of 3 teams while telling itself that the discomfort is temporary. The promise of AI-adjacent entry-level work is a future-tense argument being used to justify present-tense harm. That's a category error, and the graduates absorbing the cost of it deserve to have it named. What the career ladder used to offer wasn't just a paycheck. It was a system for producing the next generation of institutional knowledge. The CEOs who rose from the mailroom, and there have been more than a few, didn't rise because they were exceptional. They rose because they spent years inside the organizations learning how decisions got made, how mistakes get corrected, how trust gets built. That knowledge cannot be downloaded. It cannot be prompted. It can only be accumulated through time and proximity, in exactly the kinds of roles that are now disappearing. The bottom rung is disappearing, says Heather Daché of SignalFire. She frames it as something that has the potential to up-level everyone. Maybe, but the people currently falling have no interest in the potential. They are dealing with the actual. The actual is a job market that has quietly sawed off the first step and told young workers to jump. In San Francisco, more than 80% of postings labeled entry-level now require at least 2 years of experience. That's not a definition of entry-level. That's a moving target dressed in its language. This is the story underneath the AI productivity numbers. Not the efficiency gains, not the quarterly earnings beat, not the breathless announcements about how many tokens a model can process per second. The story is simpler and harder. An entire generation of workers is being asked to compete for a labor market that has quietly restructured itself around them, with fewer rungs, higher bars, and an algorithm deciding whether their resume is even worth a human's time. The 35% is not a statistic about jobs. It's a statistic about futures. Every entry-level position that disappears is a mentorship that won't happen, an error that won't be caught and turned into a lesson, a career that won't compound into leadership, We are not just automating tasks. We are automating the pipeline that produces experienced humans. And we will not know the cost of that decision until the people who would have caught it are already gone. The question worth asking isn't whether AI can do the job. It clearly can, at least in part, at least for now. The question is what we lose when no one is left who remembers how to do it without the machine.